Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Speaking Our Language show. We have the first ever interview with the renowned pen, Chilla Jones. Chilla, good morning. How you doing?
I'm good, man. How you doing, bro?
Doing fine, man. Just trying to stay busy in these battle rap streets. A lot has transpired. Actually, a lot has transpired since your last battle. Which
Yeah.
is something I really want to touch on. For starters, let's talk about Pendulum Ink a little bit. How did that come about? I got a little bit of background information from watching some of Mickey Fax interviews and stuff like that. Him talking about it, you talking about it. But how did
hmm
the actual process of formulating Pendulum Ink come about, and how did you hear about it?
Yeah. Um. So, Mickey Fax reached out to me. Um. Must have been probably mid-December.
Mhm.
Um. And told me about this idea. Should I have
Mhm.
this idea for a master class? Where we teach some of our techniques. Now, mind you, a lot of these techniques are techniques that we either created or that we named,
Right.
right? As a way of being able to identify certain techniques and styles that rappers often use.
Mhm.
So he was like, I want to do a master class. I want to kind of share with the world some of the techniques we've created,
Mhm.
some of the techniques we've named, and he kind of was gauging my interest in trying to be involved and be a part of it. And I was on board, man. I'm always, you know, I think I'm finding as I get older that one of my passions is teaching and
Right.
mentoring
Right.
and being able to um foster somebody from a certain skill level to a higher skill level
Mhm.
and to see the progress and the evolution of people, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
So when he brought me the idea, I was super interested. I was happy to be involved. um as we started to put things together with this master class, it eventually just kind of naturally evolved over a couple of months of talking and development, and just kind of evolved into an actual school in a way. You
Mhm.
know what I mean?
That's
We
fire.
we we added another we added another class, a rap theory class.
Mhm.
We added a hip hop mental health class also for people to take.
That's beautiful.
Um, and then we added like monthly electives that people could take if they wanted to, that are totally optional, which are like my battle rap class.
Mhm.
Mickey Fax has a what's called a Mickey Money class, where he teaches you how to monetize in different ways
Oh yeah,
off
his
off of Mickey.
financial literacy is A1.
Yeah, you know
So
what I
yeah, that's
mean. So
fire.
he's teaching you how to make money off social media.
Mhm.
He's teaching you how to make money off of your raps and your crafts. Teaching you how to get your stuff licensed to be in video games and commercials and soundtracks. All of these different ways and all of these different things that a lot of up and coming or newer artists don't necessarily know. You know what I mean? And there isn't a place for you to easily be able to discover a lot of this information.
Yeah.
A lot of this information is like, if somebody in the know isn't telling you,
Right.
until somebody in the know tells you, you may not ever know that these things are possible or how these things work.
Mhm.
So I think it's dope that Mickey is bringing a lot of that stuff to the forefront and kind of giving people the opportunity to learn this stuff. And then Comic Book Cam, who's the professor of the rap theory department,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, his thing is content creation.
Mhm.
So he's really good with being able to look at your specific social media page and say, all right, this is what you need to do. You need to do this with your videos. You need to keep your videos under a certain amount of time. You need to post this frequently or this often, or wait between posts, or whatever the situation is. Man, he's really good at being able to look at your social media standing as it currently sits, and give you little tips and little pointers as to what you can do specifically to be able to grow your followers, grow your fan base, and to
Mhm.
be able to eventually maybe have some videos that go viral, or are very successful in terms of the visibility and the amount of interactions that you're getting.
Okay.
um we're still experimenting, man. we're
Yeah.
still still developing. We're still making changes to our structure, our layout. We're still experimenting with potentially adding other electives. We're still adding staff members. We just
Have
added,
amazing guests, by the way. Amazing guests.
yes, we had Inspector Deck for month one. We have
Yeah.
Fonte this month that he'll be pulling up in a couple of weeks to be able to talk to everybody. We also have lined up Graph, Cheeto Excel, Master Ace, Method Man.
Yeah. Which you have a good, you guys have a, you particularly have a good rapport with Method Man. I've seen you guys did a track before.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So yeah, man, you know, and then like I said, on top of that, we're still growing as the word gets out, as people are kind of learning about what we do on a larger scale. You know, we're literally every day we wake up, we have meetings, and we can see the growth in our company, you know, financially, in terms of the notoriety, different platforms, different places that are hitting us up to be able to talk about what we do and get the word out. So it's been a really dope experience. We've only been doing this, man, barely 4 months.
And already a movement.
We've been together doing this, and the school itself has only been open, or, you know, we've only been doing classes for about 5 weeks. And you can already see kind of a skill level difference in our student body from when they first started to where they are now. So I can only imagine in the next, you know, 7.5 months that we have left, you know, how much progress they're going to be making over that course of time compared to when they started. So it's been a really dope process, man. Something I'm really happy to be a part of. And, you know, I'm hoping that it continues to grow, and I'm hoping that we can have an impact on hip hop culture going forward.
Yeah. How much do you think like your involvement in writer's block kind of play a role in terms of like the way of which you kind of try to assist some of these incoming students when it pertains to writing skills? Because I know like a big part of writer's block, right, was like a cohort of writers that like specialize in like doing master techniques or whatever, and there's some level of like sparring that kind of like make you guys feed off each other in terms of ideas. Do you feel like that kind of played a role in like some of the you know, tactics and techniques you try to teach some of those students in those classrooms?
Yes and no. You know, I wouldn't say a lot of it is directly connected to writer's block, but what I will say is a lot of the techniques that we are teaching are techniques that I mastered while being a part of writer's block. And from that standpoint, it wasn't so much of me, you know, teaching or bringing any of these techniques or styles to writer's block in order to, you know, to help my fellow battle rappers or anything like that. In the writer's block era, man, we were just all super competitive. Yeah. And so these techniques were a way for me to, you know, have different styles and different ways to kind of elevate, different ways to show, you know, my lyricism, you know, compared to everybody else in the group. So for me, that's all it was. Most of what is being taught in most of you know, the curriculum that we've put together, well, as far as advanced techniques, because there's rap theory, which is again Professor Cam. There's the hip hop mental health, which is rhymecology,
content creating stuff,
all that. So the class that Mickey and I teach is called Advanced Techniques, and that's really the one for, you know, people who want to increase their writing ability and be able to learn different things. So in that class that we specialize in, you know, again, a lot of that curriculum is, you know, directly from the brain of Mickey and I. Yeah. And it's just a process where, you know, I've been rocking with Mickey for, you know, a little over 10 years, and
he was there in your PG battle, or not PG battle, but your battle with JC. He was right there front and center.
Yeah, battle with JC. He was there. You know, Mook was there. A lot of people were there, and you know, even before that battle, man, he and I had a great relationship because he's one of the people that, you know, fostered the relationship between me and URL. You know what I mean? He was one of the first people to see my footage from Boston. Yeah. which I only had, one battle before URL, but he saw that battle and he went to Norbs and was like, we this kid is different. Like,
right.
We need to bring him to URL. This is when he was working with URL kind of as like a scout, or kind of as like a talent recruit. Like whenever he saw somebody that wasn't on URL that was dope, he was bringing them to Norbs and bringing them to Smack and saying, yo, let's bring this guy in for a PG and see if he could be a star. So in that capacity back then, he saw my footage and brought me into URL, and that's kind of how I got my career started with URL. But we've been rocking for so long, man, that like when we see different things, when we hear different things, and when we pull off different things within the courses of our writing, whether it's battle rap, whether it's music or whatever, we always name it. We always figure out a way to identify it so that we know exactly what technique or what style is being employed,
and you can master it.
And you can master it, and you can identify it also in the works of other artists, right? So like when we talk about certain things like shadowboxing, shadowboxing is a term that we use to describe internal rhyming, right? So you're not rhyming at the ends of the bars. You're rhyming, 2 times within the rhymes of the ending bar, right? So it's a lot of like what Cassidy does. It's a lot of what, Big Pun was doing back in the day. Inspector Deck was doing a lot of that stuff back in the day. I feel like it's a very common practice now. I feel like it's definitely a common practice in battle rap. But now we've made it so that if you hear the term shadowbox, you know exactly what technique we're talking about in terms of
internal rhyming,
what an artist is doing. You know what I'm saying? And so,
gotcha.
Lots of terms and lots of techniques like those we've kind of helped to put terminology to and help make more easily identifiable for everybody.
Yeah. So and the gist that I'm getting is that like the class is meant to, even though you are a battler, is meant to enhance overall rapping skill. And I think that's always been kind of a divide, right? Like we have, as we always say, you have battle rappers and you have rappers. And the ones that usually excel in battle rap are the rappers that are like well versed in everything, as opposed to just battle rap tactics. So I find it to be very amazing that Pendulum Ink movement is getting a lot of traction and getting a lot of eyes. My next question was pertaining to I actually seen something on your Twitter, the resurgence of Shark Tank. A lot of people don't know that you were once you were once a league owner, or you had an interest in being a league owner. That was initially your first passion, but eventually you got into the battle rapping. So can you talk a little bit about like the resurgence of Shark Tank, what you're looking forward to doing, and how did Shark Tank come about?
Yeah. So this even predates my battle rap career, but Shark Tank is a league that I ran from late 2009 off and on all the way up till about 2014. And before having a battle league was cool, before battlers were running leagues, way before
the UWs and stuff like that.
Before all of that, I was running Shark Tank Battlegrounds, probably the first established battle league in Boston / New England.
Right. New England area. Yeah.
There was also Connecticut Battle League, which eventually evolved into iBattle. iBattle.
Yeah.
And then shortly after, there was 413 Battle League, which is based out of Springfield, Mass. The Shark Tank was kind of like one of the first leagues that was centered around Boston, having events around Boston in that battle rap capacity. And so back then, it was so much tougher to find battle rappers. Like now it feels like there's battle rappers everywhere. You know what I mean? Like if I want to find a battle rapper right now, bro, and I jump on my Twitter or my Facebook, I can have 20 battle rappers in my inbox in 10 minutes. You know
Yeah,
what I'm saying?
because it's
like,
cool now.
Because now it's a thing, right? Like
Yeah.
now it's cool. Now it's grown so much. It's evolved. It's gotten more popular. But in 2009, it was not that. You know what I mean?
And I'm guessing, especially in like the New England area, it was even more like,
super, because that culture is not naturally here.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's different than New York, which is the mecca, or like Philly or Chicago, or a lot of these other cities where this battle thing or this battle culture has been around in a big way probably since the early 2000s.
Right.
So at from 2009, 2010, 2011, you have like the peak of talent from those cities. You have your Luxes, your Mooks, your Reed Dollars, your Cicero, your Cassidy, your Big Cannon, your Young Cannon, your Calico, your Young Ill, your Verb, like in this, like, I guess what's otherwise looked at as like the early URL era, like there was no Lux from Boston that was paving the way. There was no Moot. There was no Iron Solomon, Sirius Jones. We didn't have none of that.
Yeah.
We didn't have a culture here. We didn't have a scene. So what did recruiting look like for me back then? Recruiting was finding somebody who could rap really fucking good and trying to convince them that they should try and battle. It wasn't like he's a battle rapper and I just need to get him to my platform. It was like, nah, I gotta go to showcases. I gotta go to shows. I gotta go to ciphers. I gotta go to different places and be like, yo.
And then you have to fine tune them into battle rap, because it's just like there's still certain things you have to learn, even if you're a good rapper. Gotcha.
Exactly. And to be in a city where that culture wasn't already there for me to utilize, it was way more than just like style and technique stuff, right? Like I literally have to tell you in that day and age, like, all right, so this dude is gonna be saying shit about your hood, he's gonna be saying shit about your girl, he's gonna be saying shit, and you as a man, you have to know that this is just entertainment, and you gotta just do the same thing back to him, and when the battle's over, that's it. Like it doesn't go any further.
Yeah.
And that, for people who weren't familiar with battle rap or who weren't naturally into the culture, just wasn't a thing, bro. Like as many rappers as I came across, and even some of the actual battle rappers that I came across, they were never willing to just stand in a ring and let somebody talk to them like crazy. That. Because they're used to battling at ciphers or in the middle of the street. Right. And if you said something too crazy, then it went left. You know what I'm saying? Like, and so you had to keep it in a certain vein in that regard. So it was a lot tougher back then, man. So after 2014, as my personal battle rap career kind of started to take off, man, I put a lot of things on hold. I put a lot of my music stuff on hold. Yeah. Which I'm just recently getting back to with Jones Ink.
Valentine's Day project, by the way, that was dope.
Thank you, bro. Thank you. I put Shark Tank Battlegrounds on hold. And so now as I've gotten older, as I've started to understand the value of not only delegating, but just trusting other people with playing roles and things I'm a part of. That was never something that I could easily do, coming up in Boston and working with different music teams and stuff like that. I was always used to doing everything myself. I ran Shark Tank by myself, me and DJ 213. Right. Who's been my manager for a long time. We ran Shark Tank ourselves. We ran our music shit by ourselves. And even when we were affiliated with other people and other teams, it was like they weren't necessarily pulling their weight the way that we were pulling our weight. You know what I'm saying? And so it always felt like we were doing everything ourselves. That's kind of the mentality that I had built up over the years, bro. But like, Now that I've gotten older, I've started to find the value in being able to, you know, focus on the things I need to focus on, and having other people around me that can also focus on some of these things to lift some of the burden off of me. So, you know, with Jones Ink, you know, Jones Ink is a group I have with my brother, my literal blood biological brother. I'm not just calling him my brother to be cool. It's my actual brother.
Yeah.
And you know, we collaborate. He sings, I rap. He also raps. You know what I'm saying? We make great music. You know, we invest in ourselves. We invest in each other. And there's been a value in that. You know what I mean? When I have battles coming up, when I have things going on, he holds it down on that side of things, and he's able to, you know, keep pumping out the music, keep his mind in a creative space to keep that train going, while I'm able to jump off real quick, get this battle done, get that done, and then come back, and it's like, you know, everything is still going. You know, it's kind of, you know, kind of the same thing with Pendulum Ink. As I'm getting ready for certain things that I have coming up, I know that Mickey and the rest of the staff can help kind of keep things going, even if I have to take a week or so and be like, all right, man, I got a battle this week. I might not be able to teach this class. You know, Mickey can step in and be like, all right, I got it. I can teach this class. You know, so you can get this battle done. And then when I come back next week, we good. You know what I mean? So it's newer for me to be able to trust people with that. You know what I'm saying? With being able to do that. And, you know, I'm just grateful to have people around me that allow me to be great at all these different things. And I don't have to sacrifice the music anymore to be able to be great at battling. I don't have to sacrifice being great at battling to be a great professor with Pendulum Ink. And I don't have to sacrifice being a great professor, you know, to be a great musician with Jones Ink. So now it's all kind of coming together. It's all making sense. You know, I feel like I have the right people around me, the right team, the right support structure. And so I'm just looking forward to growing in all of those different aspects and all of those different regards, man. So, yeah, I'm so happy to be able to bring Shark Tank back. I have a lot of big things planned. I want to bring a lot of big names to the city that haven't been here. I want to give the opportunity to a lot of local battlers to be able to grow and get some big matchups that they haven't been able to get.
Yeah.
I'm also a Crucible Scout.
That was gonna be my next question.
Yeah.
How is that going? Because I know, like, it's one thing to, you know what I'm saying, you know, see somebody at at your local battle event or at a battle event and be like, oh, this guy is dope. Maybe I'll talk to, you know, so-and-so management and make sure like they get a look. But it's a whole nother thing to be a part of that scouting team and looking for talents, and not only looking for talents, but the leagues are relying on you to find the talent and also be like trustworthy in the talent that you choose. So how is the process of the Crucible in terms of like what you initially envisioned it to be for you as a scout, and two, how much responsibility is placed on you to be like very reliable in terms of like the talent that you're choosing?
Yeah. So, you know, the process for the Crucible is such where, you know, there's 6 different regions.
Yeah.
And, you know, within the 6 regions, there's 6 different tryout spots. Generally, the top 6 battlers from every region advance to phase 2. There's also usually, I think, 12 scouts who get 2 picks per region. So in every region, you know, you're having, you know, potentially 24 battlers, but only the top 6 advance. From there, it goes to, you know, phase 2, which we just completed last month in Atlanta.
Yeah, you did a recap on that on your caffeine show. I remember.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
So with phase 2, they have actual scheduled matchups. They get the chance to actually write and prepare for an opponent.
That's fire.
Which is different than phase 1, because phase 1 is totally
you're showcasing
random.
your talents. That's it.
Exactly. It's totally random. So phase 2, they get to actually write for an opponent. They get to actually, you know, figure out what they want to say and prepare angles and jokes and things like that. And so from there it goes to phase 3. From there, I think it's the top maybe the top 16, and that's drawing from, you know, the top 36. So it goes from like the top 36 down to like the top 16. So then like another 20 people are getting eliminated out of phase 2, depending on how they performed, how well they performed, or whatever the case.
Yeah.
And then it's going to go into another phase 3, where they're head-to-head battling, and then the cream of that crop is going to be the Crucible class that moves forward, that you probably end up seeing in Ultimate Madness later in the year or early next year. As far as my value as a scout and as far as my job as a scout, what I love about being a scout is the accountability, man. Like if you're picking talent that is not advancing, you lose your spot as a scout. So you can't just you don't just come into this position and say, all right, I want to pick this guy because I know him. I want to pick this guy because I know him.
Right.
I want to pick this guy because I know him. Then they all get knocked out, and then you're like, oh man, I'm gonna come back next year and pick this guy because I know him.
Right.
Like it doesn't work that way, bro. Like if you don't get, I think it's a minimum of 4 picks through between all 6 regions. If you don't get at least 4 picks through, good night. You lose your spot as a scout, and somebody else comes in next season to replace you.
So the pressure's on you guys too. So that's dope.
We all have a quota that we have to hit. We have to hit at least, I want to say it's 4, it could be 5, but we have to hit at least 4 battlers, getting through phase 1.
Yeah.
Right. And so I love that accountability as a scout, because it forces you, to literally put your reputation in your job behind your picks.
Right.
Like your position as a scout literally depends on the success of your picks in phase 1. So if you're picking out of loyalty and not necessarily picking out of, the best that you can find from your region, it's gonna fuck you up. You know what I mean?
It eradicates the biasness of like the selection, and I think that's dope. I think that's amazing, actually.
Yeah.
So I know like one person in particular that you're very, very high on is Rainee da Rebel. Can you talk a little bit more about like maybe like when you like how was it when you first seen her perform, and like what are some things that what I'm saying that like you really feel like is going to take her to that next level? Because I feel like pretty much from what the gist I'm getting from you is that like she's one of those people that are going to transcend the Crucible process. So can you touch a little bit on her and the work she's done and how impressed you've been over the course of the process?
Absolutely. Rainee da Rebel, man. Shout out to Kels from OSBL, DMV, because I had reached out to Kels, and her and myself and a couple other scouts, we kind of made a conscious decision, and we were like, yo, we want to see more women involved, like in this process. And so Kels, I think, had picked a woman from one of her regions. I had picked Rainee. There were a couple of other women that were picked in some of the other regions also, which I think is so necessary and so needed and so dope. So I reached out to Kels and I said, man, I really want to, get a woman on my side for the picks. Who do you think? You know what I mean? I had asked her because at that time, I'm a lot more knowledgeable now as far as like up and coming talent and where they are, nationwide from being involved in this Crucible process. But as I stepped into this role, I leaned a lot on Kels and I leaned a lot on Lex Luthor from iBattle.
Right. Lex is great at finding talent. Amazing at finding talent.
Absolutely. So I leaned a lot on those guys, and I just said, tell me how I should do this. Tell me what to look for, because I saw their success from season 1, and I wanted to kind of follow in their path. So they were super, super helpful with giving me dope tips, with telling me where to look, with even recommending some picks. And so one of the picks that Kels recommended for me was Rainee. She said, I saw Rainee perform recently live, and she was great. And, I think she could be a really good pick for your team.
Mm-hmm.
So I did my due diligence. I pulled up some Rainee battles. I saw what she could do. I saw her potential. I loved her potential because she was a pen.
Mm-hmm. Of course.
And
Of course.
I saw super potential with her ability to grow. And I just, I see Rainee already as somebody that can be a part of a lot of these URL events where you have like Kings versus Queens. They just announced an event yesterday called Future Queens, which is I think the first all woman URL card. That's not like a Queen of the Ring collaboration, but that's all URL, entirely URL. And honestly, Rainee should have been on that. It's happening in North Carolina, where she's from. And she's, if you ask me, obviously I'm biased to some extent, but she had a great performance at phase 2. I fully expect her to be through onto phase 3. And, regardless of how far she even gets in the Crucible, I think her Crucible showings so far have more than solidified her as somebody, that URL can use in events like these.
That's some high words from Chilla Jones in terms of how much you co-sign her. That's dope.
She's dope, man. And and honestly, outside of her potential and all that, what I love most about Rainee is that she works so hard. She wants this opportunity. She calls me almost every day and is like, Chilla, hit us. I need you to hit us. I need you to hit us. And is running 16 bars by me, 24 bars by me. And I'm like, okay, I like this. I don't like this, and I'm giving her my feedback and stuff.
I'm about to say you're very meticulous when it comes to the the feedback.
You know what I'm saying? And the next day she's got 24 new bars for me. You know what I'm saying? And she's constantly trying to figure out how to get better. She's constantly trying to figure out new things. I've never seen somebody want to advance and go as far in this battle rap thing as Rainee does. She wants it more than anybody else I've ever seen, man or woman. Like, she is,
that's dope,
totally dialed in, totally locked in. Like, she deserves it, man. And so I'm so happy for her success so far. I fully expect Rainee to be, if not the last person standing, one of the last people standing out of this Crucible class. She's improving every time I see her. She's improving every time I talk to her. So salute to her, man, because like I said, she's been a great addition to Team Chilla. She's my project, man. She's my prodigy, and I'm so happy with this, with what she's done so far. But I also know the best is yet to come, man. So I'm looking forward to seeing what she does over the next few months.
Yeah. Damn, man. That, like, if I'm Rainee da Rebel, like, I'm super ecstatic from the words that you just said about her. That's amazing. All right, man, let's get into this, man. I've been watching you since 2012. I still watch your Cash Eden battle to this day. The fact that, so Scheming's been around forever, right? I remember you and Iron Solomon having a battle, and Iron Solomon pretty much saying that, like, while you are the face of Scheming's been around since he did it against Math, right? But one thing that differentiates you and everybody else, especially in that time period, is that you were a back-to-back schemer. I don't know if people quite understand the power that you need in your brain to do back-to-back schemes, because it's already an extraneous process to do one good scheme in a round, or like one good scheme in a battle. But for you to do it back-to-back, not back-to-back punching, back-to-back schemes, is impeccable. And I think people really didn't understand the magnitude of what was done in that time period. A question I had was, where did your style come from? Like I know, like all of us, like I know all battlers are influenced by like rappers, right? I know all battlers have said that, like, you know, the people in the DVD era influenced them, whether it's Sirius Jones, Mook, Lux, or whatever. But I'm very curious as to where were you influenced as a battler, especially when it comes to the back to back scheming style.
Yeah. Well, I can say from a scheming standpoint,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I was largely influenced by Mook,
Mm-hmm.
and you know, the sandwich scheme that he did versus Loaded Lux.
Yeah.
In the clothing shop. You want to be a hero for the bread and the cheese.
Yeah.
We'll roast the beef, hit them with hot peppers, and slices onions. So please don't let us while y'all play catch up.
Yeah.
We take 10 steps. You know what I'm saying? Like,
right.
That clicked something in my head.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, the way he just did that, the way he just walked through that scenario, but was also naming the components of a hero, of a sandwich.
Yeah.
Is genius. And so it was that combined with, you know, like the wittiness of Lux,
obviously,
that he had in that battle.
Yeah.
You know, I always saw myself as a fusion dance of that. You know what I'm saying? Like a combination of Mook's technical writing with Lux, more of Lux's you know, cleverness and wittiness with his wordplay. So that's where, you know, the scheming in my style comes from. Now, when you start talking about the back to back scheming, that's me.
So you made the conscious effort of like every 4 or 5 bars is going to be a whole nother scheme.
That's me. I didn't get that from anyone, but that was
that's your way of like differentiating yourself from everyone else.
Exactly. That at that time, that was Chilla style.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like the same way in that day, you know, back to back punchlines was Magic style.
Right.
The same way in that day, like, you know, Clean was somebody who roast you. Rosenberg was, you know, a bully. Like, you know, back in that day and back in that era, like everybody.
There's a prototype for everything.
Everybody was original.
Right.
Right. Like coming in sounding like somebody else was a no-no.
Mm-hmm.
You wouldn't even be well received if you sounded like Magic, if you sounded like Chilla, if you sounded like Clean or John or Rosenberg or Bill Collector, or we all in some way, shape, or form had to have something about us that was so extraordinarily different that people could pinpoint that's Chilla's style, that's his style, that's her style, that's so that was my thing. My thing is y'all be scheming sometimes.
I'm doing it every 4 bars.
Sometimes y'all scheme for 2 bars, sometimes y'all scheme for 4, sometimes y'all scheme for 8. But y'all not doing a scheme here with a scheme right after, with another scheme right after, then with a crazy scheme right. Like nobody else was doing that. And at that time, it was so untapped into that it was so much easier for me back then to find things that hadn't been schemed.
Right.
So if I want to do 4 or 5 schemes in a round, that's easy. Boom, 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 boom. I get that done in a day. That's quick. It's so much different now. And that was why I kind of evolved and changed my style up as I got older, because it was like, not only am I having to find different, more original things to scheme.
Right.
But now that everybody else is scheming for the past 2 or 3 years, and they're taking all of the other things that I probably would have touched on.
Right.
They're making it so impossible for me to be successful with the style because people are sick of hearing the style. It's not that they hated me, and this took
it got beaten to
realize.
The ground after 2013, 2014, when like once you like showed them the blueprint to a degree, right? Because like I said, scheming's been around before, but once you've shown how impactful scheming can be, everybody started to do it. Like everybody starts, and I'm saying in abundance too. Like you can literally see like your favorite rappers, and you can talk your shit a little bit because you're the one that said that. Like, hey, all I can say is when Charlie Clips see me scheme at one event, and then the next thing you know, he's doing the scheme in Summer Madness too. So I mean,
and
that's
was,
impactful in itself.
That was the battle out of Shark Tank, man. When I battled at Shark Tank, you know, I had this this furniture scheme, which was like I gotta see if I can remember exactly.
I remember you said all like an alderman and
yeah. So for alderman who
yeah.
chair, who brought Dutches to put cushion, the price on a pill low. I pull out my drawers, gripping tools. You know, so no one is gonna be left standing. You know, there'll be shit in stools. But anyway, it was a whole like furniture scheme, right? And it was a whole like living room set type. And
he ended up doing guess what room I'm in 2012.
So Charlie
Summer
hears that.
Goes crazy.
To Summer Madness and does guess which room I'm in, and then you know does essentially the same thing, but just does it for different rooms. So he does living room, and he even has some of the same ones I had. Then he goes to kitchen, either you know faucet, bathroom, and toilet, and you know, yeah, man. So like, you know, in that era when all of our favorite battle rappers decided that they wanted to rap like this, so they wanted to do this, people didn't get sick of me, they got sick of hearing the style.
Right.
And it made it more difficult for me because every time I rap, then people were like, oh man, this is boring. But it's not boring because of me, it's boring because all of your favorite rappers are doing this now. So now every battle on every card, people sound like me.
And do you think another part of wanting to change your style is people not realizing how much work goes into back-to-back scheming and it not getting appreciated? I can point to like your DNA battle, right? I feel like the DNA battle is the changing point of your career, right? Yeah. Because I feel like you were on Gnome, one of the biggest cards of all time at that time period. People don't realize how the magnitude of that card of Gnome 3. You had Disaster versus T-Rex, Sue Surf versus Hollow's Return, Big T versus K Shine, Hitman versus Conceited, and then you versus DNA. DNA making his return from the K Shine battle or whatever. So he had a lot to prove. You're going into that battle, right? And you're doing some amazing stuff on paper. Like your writing is impeccable. Probably one of your best writing, in my opinion, one of your best writing performances you've ever had or whatever. But it wasn't received well, obviously. It was received in spurts or whatever, but it's very hard to catch an audience like that when you're doing back-to-back scheming, and the schemes that you're doing are very elongated or whatever. So do you feel like a part of another reason why you kind of changed your style is because, like, one, the idea of back-to-back scheming can be so draining as a writer, and two, it's like you're doing all of this and it's not being appreciated when you see like someone else that gives a regular four-bar build-up and get the same, you know what I'm saying, reaction as you would if you do like a 16 bars of schemes.
Right. Well, you know, what I'll say is, you know, I feel like the biggest thing for me, like a lot of people think I changed my style because people were calling me boring and people were saying this and that. It really wasn't it. You know, the change really happened because I felt like I no longer stood out. Right? Like if you know, to put this in a different way, if I enter, you know, if I enter, let's say a fighting tournament,
right,
and a majority of the top fighters there are boxing,
right,
right, I come in and I'm kicking with power, the same way people are punching with power. And then you see the people who used to punch with power, now they're mixing kicks into their fighting style.
Right.
And then after a year and a half or 2 years, everyone's kicking.
Right.
It just made me go, all right,
It's time to do something else.
Now I gotta throw elbows.
Right.
Now I gotta bring the knee up. I gotta do knees now. Like that's how I felt. I needed to switch my style in order to continue to feel like I was standing out from everyone else. The whole point of my style at that time was to sound different than the masses.
Right.
And so when the masses adapted and started using that style, I said, okay, I gotta change it again. And so I went to a quicker scheme style. I incorporated more punchlines. I incorporated more like wordplay, more angles, more jokes. I think I overall became a lot more well-rounded during that time. So when you see me in like the Daylight battle, which happened in like April of 2014, which is almost a year after the DNA battle.
Method Man in the building.
Method Man in the building. You know,
right.
you can see that. Oh, okay, Chilla's doing. He's still doing back-to-back scheming, but they're cut down. Like they're much shorter. They're much quicker to the point.
Compact for sure.
They're compact. The irony of it is Daylight comes out in the first round and does this minute and a half Mortal Kombat scheme, right?
It's probably longer than that.
which is probably closer to 2 minutes.
Right.
And people loved it. Right? Yeah. Like people loved it. The same thing that they had, crucified before, after a certain amount of time.
Right.
Daylight comes out against me saying, yo, I'm against Chilla, the scheme king. I'm gonna do some scheming too, and I'm gonna do this. And the scheme is genius. Don't get me wrong, but it was just interesting to be on the other side and being like, damn, y'all loved this. Y'all loved this Mortal Kombat scheme. But if I had been doing this, I feel like people would have hated it. Maybe that's a tribute to Daylight showmanship or
charisma for sure.
His charisma, which we can't take that away from Day. Like that was definitely like the era like that between DNA and up until Daylight, like that time frame was the time frame where I was like, all right, I need to figure something out. I need to change.
When I tell you everybody was doing schemes, even like hell, Tone Montana did a scheme that was crazy, like his gun scheme. Like everybody was doing schemes after 2012. And like one thing I will say about you and the JC battle is to me it's still a top 5 battle of all time. I know a lot of battles has transpired from 2012 to now, but in terms of the prototype it built, right? Because you had JC, the back-to-back puncher, and then you had Chilla, who was the back-to-back schemer, in a small room, people that were like very, very bar heavy or whatever, and just relied on their pins to get the job done. So I wholeheartedly believe that a part of the reason why like you changed up your style is because everybody else kind of hopped on that trend. So another question I had, because you kind of brought up Daylight or whatever. So after DNA battle, right, 2013, you go on to KOTD and have your run over there, right?